Welcome back, everyone. I'm Tom Murphy, and this is Trinidad Now on Trinidad Times TV 71 and on YouTube, Trinidad Times TV 71. We are in beautiful downtown Trinidad today in the Chappelle House, and with me today, in our third time's the charm, is Manny Trujillo, current council member, but he's throwing his hat in for mayor. So, Manny, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. So, Manny, what I did is I gave you the questions before you sat down so that you can look them over so you have an idea. We'll go through all these, and about halfway through we'll take a short break so you can get a drink of water and breathe a little bit. So we're gonna jump right in. And I had put in here why you're running for city council, but you're not. You're running for mayor, the deep waters. So why are you running for mayor, Manny?
I want to continue to be the voice for the unheard. I just want to keep representing our citizens to the best ability that I have. I'm very lucky in the business that I have, that I'm able to connect with the community in a different way. I'm able to hear their concerns and take them to the place where they need to be heard, where we can actually resolve problems and we can get some type of resolve for them, so we can continue the quality of life that we have in Trinidad that we've continued to enjoy for the past 150 years.
Okay. So I'm going to veer off here a little bit, but you now have 2 years of experience. Do you think that those 2 years of experience will help you in this position?
I believe so. Being elected to council in 2024 was an eye-opener. It really changed my view on how government works, what we can and what we cannot do, and opened avenues that I never thought were there to be able to bring in different ideas and just bring different people to the table. So now I know the ways to do those. So that does help with that experience. Also understanding just completely how government works.
Right.
And it is not what people perceive that it's easy to do. There's a lot of red tape and there's a lot of navigation, and I do believe that my experience will help me to get through these times that we may have coming up or that we don't, either way. But we will make the best of any situation, and I believe my experience will help me guide and lead our city the way that we can.
And still veering off still a bit more, but following up on that, what are, like, specifically, if possible, some of the more positive things that you've been able to experience as a council member, and then obviously maybe negative, in your 2 years?
On the positive side, I've learned that our community is resilient. Watching volunteers come together to create festivals and products and just come together to create things for our community that all our community can enjoy. Locals, long-term residents, tourists. That is one of the positive things that I have experienced in my 2 years. Negative, there's been some, but not much. I do believe that certain things are frustrating when you believe you have a vision and you're hoping everyone has the same goal, and that doesn't always come to fruition. So that's the only negative that I've occurred.
Okay. And I don't know you that well, Manny, but you're a lifelong resident of Trinidad, is that correct?
Pretty much, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my growing years were here. So I was born here, and then I was gone for 10 years. I returned in 1994, and I started my freshman year of high school at Trinidad High School. So yeah, and then I've been here ever since.
Okay. And family here?
Correct. My family has been here for generation upon generation.
Okay. Excellent. Like I said, most of the questions are the same, but I want to personalize a little bit as much as I can. When you say something that's interesting, I'm going to take it and run with it.
I appreciate that.
What is your most valuable experience that you're bringing to the table, and how will this experience benefit the city?
Customer service. That was one thing that I learned. I've been in the service industry for going on 25 years now. So I think that has helped me to listen and learn, observe, and try to come up with solutions if there is problems that there is, or enhance.
Right.
So that is pretty much the experience I believe I bring to the table. My business sense, my business has been successful for 18 years now.
Right.
And I believe that helps me to understand how to drive a successful business, and the city is a business.
Right.
So being able to work with that and see where we can improve, because there's always room for improvement and we can always get better.
Right.
So I believe that my experience helps me to see things in a different point of view to be able to help us succeed.
So a two-part question here, instead of veering off. So in customer service, listening to the people, like in public comment during the meetings, what are your thoughts about that? And then do you also get a lot of questions, when you're not in council chambers, at work or at home? Do people call up and say, hey, fix my street?
Yes, actually they do. So in public comment, I really do appreciate that part. I like when our community comes up and they air their grievances. We can't be everywhere, so we can't see everything that's going on.
Right.
So we rely upon them to come in and let us know where we're lacking or what we could do better. So I do appreciate the public comment, and I really wish we had more people coming forward and letting us know. That's the only way that we can grow, and that's the only way we can fix things. In my business, it's different. Hairdressing is a whole different world. So the comfort level there is different. So they air their grievances in a different way, which I'm glad I get to hear that quite a bit on a daily. And then plus my door is always open. So I have people that come in constantly, sometimes you get yelled at.
Really?
And sometimes they come in with positive things. Like you did, the Chili Festival was a great turnout. Santa Fe Trail was a great turnout, and those are wonderful. So there's a nice balance. But when they come in and they let me know, automatically I take notes. I try to make phone calls as soon as I can, to see if we can resolve the issue. I do enjoy that.
Right.
I'm glad I can provide a comfortable environment where people feel safe to come in and say, hey, there's a tree growing in my pothole.
Right.
And it's like, oh, well, that needs to be taken care of right away. Let's make some phone calls and see what we can do.
Right. So do you get phone calls at home?
Yes.
Quite a few?
Quite a few
Does that
phone
take
calls.
up a lot of time?
It does. This position, I knew it was going to be a lot, and I'm fine with the dedication to it.
Right.
So, but about 60% of my time is dedicated to the city right now.
Wow, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, some people are really angry.
Yes, there are some things that they are angry about. There's certain situations that happen and come up, and all I can do is take their problems to the powers that be that can actually fix them.
Right.
And hopefully we can address them, or we can get them in front of council and get them discussed.
Right.
So, but I'm surprised with our community of how much they actually are involved and how much knowledge they truly have about our community. They may not come forward in the meetings, but they come to us as council members.
Right.
And they visit and they bring amazing ideas and observations.
Really?
And that's honestly where some of my topics that I bring up that I want to address to council, a lot of that has come from our citizens.
Right.
I've never thought to look at ordinances certain ways. They know the ordinances. They check our websites. They look to see how clear they are and what they need to be.
Right.
They need to be updated. And they come up with cool ideas that are like, well, maybe this would be better and maybe this would help. So I write those down and I take them to our city manager and say, hey, can we talk about this? Maybe this is a potential.
Right.
And some have stuck. So most of our ideas are not all just self-generated. It comes from our community.
Right. Were you expecting this before you ran? Did you know that this was going to happen like this?
No, did not.
Really?
Yeah. I really honestly thought it was going to be a lot of book work.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I thought it was. But I didn't realize how much engagement there was, which I like that a lot better.
Right.
Than just sitting in front of a book and reading. And it's like,
right.
I like that open line of communication.
Okay. Is it possible that the mayor is even another level up of communication with people who are happy or are upset with you?
Yes, and I have braced myself for that.
Right.
And I welcome it, honestly. Sometimes I believe our citizens feel that they don't have a voice, that they're never heard. So that is why I want to be in that position to be able to go through and carry that through so they can be heard.
Right.
They are extremely valuable to us. Our citizens are the number one. If we don't have citizens, we don't have a city.
Right.
So we need to make sure that they are well taken care of and their problems and their issues are resolved.
Okay, interesting. So moving forward, although these questions are somewhat redundant, but I'm going to ask them anyway.
Okay.
Well, let me ask this. I don't think I asked this. I was listening to your questions. What is the most valuable experience you bring to the table, and how would this experience benefit the city? You've kind of said it, but I'm just asking in a slightly different way.
Valuable? My accessibility?
No. Okay. No, yeah. That's a valid answer.
Yeah. So, like I said, in my business, and everybody knows in beauty and barbershops, that is where politics happen. Yeah. That's where all the discussion is. And like I said, our door is always open to anyone that needs to have and come in and have an open conversation. I believe that'll also to work into what I'm planning on when I get elected mayor, is to bring that forum from my shop into our town.
Right.
Opening back up possible town halls, to where we can have open lines of communication and allow citizens to air their grievances in a judgment-free forum. Our city council meetings are very structured, and they don't allow for free thinking sometimes from the community, so we can input back and forth. And I really would like that to be something that I want to focus on, is the same way that I have it in my shop, where we have that open line of conversation to where it's an exchange of ideas for betterment. Right. And I think if we take that on the larger scale, I really do believe that we can build our community to another level. We can be a lot stronger. I believe it'll reestablish the trust all the way across from citizens, between the bridge the divide from government to our local citizens.
Okay, interesting. In this next question, let me just ask this: how will you balance the needs of all the constituents, including longtime residents, transplants, working class adults, family, ranchers, farmers, youth, and others?
Excuse me. Pretty much, I think that kind of piggybacks off of what I had just said about trying to open up that open line of communication. May I have the question one more time?
Well, it's kind of maybe I'll try to rephrase it. There's some people in Trinidad that have been here like you, many generations, and I've listened in some meetings where there's kind of a sense of entitlement because we've been here longer. I think that's kind of a little bit of the between the lines part of the question. It's like, how do you balance the needs of the constituents? Because a lot of the people that are long time generational here feel somewhat, get up and say, I'm fifth generation, and you need to do this because I'm fifth generation. Whereas then you have people that are new here that want a say, but a lot of times they don't get a chance to.
They don't feel like they're heard.
Yeah, and so I think that's what I'm trying to get at here with this question is how do you deal with the people who are like, wait a minute, we've been here longer, and the people that are new going, yeah, but we're here and we want to contribute.
Well, I think that's where we need to generate consistency all the way across. Revamping some of our policies to be able to say, okay, like if you come in, you're not just gonna go ahead and we're not just gonna go just fix your hole in the street. We're gonna go through and we're gonna say, okay, there's a small process, but everybody's the same. It doesn't matter who it is or where it is. It's unbiased. Going through and saying, hey, everyone has to go through the same procedure to get what they need.
Right.
So I think that's a good way to balance it. If I answered that question correctly.
Yeah, no, there's not a correct answer. And I'm trying to be somewhat the same, as I've said repeatedly, because I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, he really got me on that one. It's like, I'm not trying to do that. Right. I'm just trying to make it as clear as possible. Yeah. And there is, again, some redundancy in these questions. The next one is probably the biggest elephant in the room, and that's the homeless situation. And in your part, and I forgot how you voted, but talk to me across the board about the homeless situation.
That's a difficult one. So the situation is dire, and we do need to find solutions. I think we should not have closed the book ever on it, because there is no solution nationwide. If there was, we would have probably pulled one down already, but there is nothing. So we have to keep continuing to create just a general welfare for all of our citizens, housed, unhoused, all the way across the board. If we can go through and just keep discussing and finding solutions. I know there's many citizens out there that have opinions and ideas that to better the situation. I think everything needs to be entertained in one way or another.
Right.
We need to look into the resources that we have. We need to look into the resources that exist. If we can't get the new resources in that are costly, due to budget constrictions or anything like that, I believe that we need to go through and start seeking funding, looking towards nonprofits, looking towards other areas, other organizations that may have the resources that we do not have. I do believe that we have to keep trying. A lot of these people that are out there are our locals. Drug addiction is a terrible, terrible thing that we're facing right now, and it's through the whole country and not just here. It's hard because the fact that we do I think everybody has someone out there that they know, and we have to go through and just try to help in one way or another. We can't turn our back on our own.
Right.
And we can't turn our back on other human beings, that even if we don't know them.
Right.
They're still human lives that we need to consider trying to figure out a solution. But we cannot just Katie bar the door and say, we're done.
Right.
And pray that they go away. Because it's not a problem that's going to go away. It's a problem that we have to face head on and we have to deal with.
Right. Manny, in some of the previous interviews I've done, and I'm at most or all the city council meetings, and I know that this is a big issue with the homeless, but I would think if that were to happen to me, that a bathroom facility would be not job number one, but priority number one. And I know in talking to other people and being at city council that they pretty much, we open them up, they'll destroy them. But yet, what else can we do? Because we need to provide some facilities, or otherwise those they're going to be to be blunt, they're going to be defecating and urinating in public. But you've had a little bit more of a front row seat. This is turning into a long question, but
You're
it's not. Fine. But it's like, how do you deal with the fact that you want to open up the bathrooms for them, but they're going to destroy them? I mean, it's a huge expense.
It is, and it really is, and that is one of the most difficult things to see. Do we justify the expense by repairing them constantly, or do we look at ways for things that are indestructible? Maybe we need to look at other ways of developing those facilities. We've done the porta potties and they were destroyed. I don't know if we've tried stainless steel permanent implants. I don't know that part of it. I haven't asked that question. But we need to look at avenues for that to kind of just deter. I don't know if we need to look at maybe pay access. I don't know. There's different ways of looking at things that other countries have done to kind of detour and say, okay, this way we know that they're clean and we know that they're not destroyed when they come out.
Right.
But that is a very difficult question, and I think that warrants a lot of digging into to figure out how we can do that, because that is one of the biggest concerns in the community right now is defecation and urination in public.
Right.
So I think that warrants a deeper conversation and some critical thinking on what we can do and what we have.
Right. And this is a statement I know, because I've been at council for so long in filming, that discussion's been going on a long time, and to quote Anthony Mattei, who we recently passed away, unfortunately, he'd been at the Vatican, and gone to mass and went outside and there were homeless people. So it's not just a Trinidad or a Colorado or a United States problem. It's worldwide. Yeah. So it's something that as the mayor or council member, you guys, or the citizens are going to want easy answers.
Correct.
And this I don't think there is.
No.
So
and
but you've tried, certainly.
Well, and as in the role of and also in the role of mayor, that's a little bit out of our scope. We have to look at policy creation of what we can do to protect our citizens, and that's pretty much our role.
Right.
But execution wise, I think we need to have deeper conversations on how we can provide a safe environment. If we're going to look at possibly just even creation of an area to where we can say, this is where your bathrooms are, or something, And like I said, it's such a difficult conversation because there is no solution.
Yeah, and I know that you have people on both sides tugging at you.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No.
So,
No, and I think I did say that in that meeting. We have to come up with these decisions that allow us to sleep at night.
Right.
And I'll be honest, no matter which direction you go, you don't sleep.
Yeah. And I think, Manny, the fact that you're already on council and you're throwing your hat in the deeper water as mayor, even though mayor is still one of 7, I think it's a bold step. And clearly you've embraced, dealing with the situation. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next question. We'll have a couple more and then we'll take a break. What does government transparency mean to you?
It's public information, so it's and that's one of the things that it literally has irked me. I think we do a decent job, but we can always do better on what we need to be putting out there. It's your information. It belongs to every citizen. Right. Everything that we do, it is your money. It is where it's going. Right. So I do believe that we need to have better access. Right. I know I have requested personally for a lot of things to be on the website and just there, so we're not having to file to have our clerk's office having to run copies after copies after copies. They already have enough to do. So I'm hoping that we can revamp our website so where a lot of our information is directly on there. One of them I'd love to see is our meetings, the meetings that you put on there, also linked on there as well in case somebody wants to reference. We need to start putting things up in a timely manner. There are some things that we are behind on, and I do believe we will be getting better on that. We do have a communications director now, which she's slowly stepping into her role, and slowly things keep getting added to her job description, which is really nice because I'm starting to see a lot of transparency, the things that I want to see. Our access is just as limited sometimes. So so that is where it irks me. Is like when I'm trying to look for something, I don't want to dig. Right. I want to be able to either Google search it or just pop on and just go in and say, oh, okay, and that answers my question. My grandfather used to always say, don't give him a reason to talk. So that's the way I just live my life. I'm like, okay, well, there it is. Might as well just put it out there front and center. You did the exact opposite by running for council and now running for mayor. Yeah. There's reason to talk. Yeah. But again, kudos to you and all the other people that are running, because in the government that we live in, if you don't get involved, then you don't have a say. Correct. And so, again, I'm just ecstatic with the people that are running, and I think that everybody's done really well, and so that makes me happy. Yeah. So okay, moving on. What are your top 3 project priorities? Capital improvements, programming, adjusting things at City Hall. Adjusting things at City Hall, you've kind of just addressed. Right. So, but what about projects and programming? Oh, so there is a plethora. So we have time. We have time, right? And I've been working on quite a few things. One of my biggest things that I've been fighting for is periodic review of ordinances, going through and hopefully getting them in front of council to have them review what the ordinance are, if they are built for modern times, if we need to strengthen them up, if we need to back off on them, what kind of impact do they cause? So ordinances are a huge thing that I've been trying to work on and focus, and that pretty much is our governance area of that, and that's what I want to make sure is that does all our staff and does our PD, does our fire department have the tools they need to do their job? Right. So, and that's one way of getting it to them, is going through that direction, and just make sure that our ordinances benefit our citizens the way that they're supposed to. Right. Another thing is economic development. Of course, we say that over and over. Economic development is key, is key, is key. But what does it mean? Right. What does it look like for Trinidad? And for me, it looks like thriving business and thriving industry, right? And so one of the other things that I'm working on is I'm working on a proposal actually right now, is in designating a dining district. I don't know if that's the exact word for it, but I'm still in the works. Looking at an area of town to where we can look at outdoor dining and look at maybe bringing 2 agencies together, going with our Main Street Board, our Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority, seeing where we can do and collaborate with actually maybe acquiring some buildings and going through and creating turnkey businesses in that area to where we can start saying, okay, here is our little entertainment district. There's going to be, I'm thinking maybe down on Commercial, utilize those wide sidewalks. Oh, okay, yeah. Right. Okay. So, and that is an area where we could do downtown dining and create that atmosphere that I envisioned 2 years ago.
Okay.
And that was one of my goals I wanted to see when you asked me, what do you see? And I believe it was 4 years. I was like,
Right.
I wanted a thriving downtown,
Right.
and I wanted to see people on the streets enjoying their lunch or having a drink or enjoying their coffee al fresco,
Right.
And I think I have found, somewhat a way, but trying to get anyone to bite on it. That's going to be the key. We got to sell it,
Okay.
and see if we can do that. And to me, that will create a quality of life. It'll generate some income that we desperately need from sales tax.
Right.
But I do believe that we deserve that as a community. We deserve that downtown experience. I think our people have been crying for it for years. I know there used to be a saying all the time that Trinidad locals don't want change. And I don't believe that's true. Because every time you find someone that's been here, let's say 3-4 generations, the first thing you ask them, like, what do you want to see in Trinidad? And they're like, restaurants. I want to go shopping. So that to me is that they're eager to change. They want things the way that they kind of were before, but in a modern way.
Right.
And my other thing is just strengthening relationships in our governments. We need to go through and completely continue to foster the relationship between the county, all our boards, all our different districts that we have through the city. And I believe going back and forth and keeping those lines of communication open will benefit us all the way around. So that is another thing I want to work on, is going through and saying, okay, can we collaborate?
Right.
Can we take some of this?
Let me pause you right there.
Uh-huh.
So 2 follow-up questions.
Yes, sir.
The first one, I've been doing this for a long time, and there's been a number of county and city joint meetings, and what I took away from is that people got some things off their chest, and they said they'd work together, and then nothing really happened. Is there anything on the table, or do you see any benefit to sitting down, maybe because I think you guys had talked about it recently, having maybe a joint meeting with the county?
Correct. Yes, there was some conversations. Still waiting for that to come into fruition. I have spoke to some of the county commissioners, which have been receptive on sitting down to meet. What I'm looking for, and I haven't brought this up at all because it's still an idea that I'm toying with in my head. We work with tourism to try to drive our economy, which is one of the aspects of it. And I do believe that we need some more outdoor recreation. I believe the county I'm hoping the county will be receptive to coming up with some ideas and maybe properties that they would be willing to. I'm just going to throw this out there completely, sir.
Right.
So like, what about motocross?
Right.
They have the land, we don't.
Right.
But those kind of conversations, I think, is where we need to be.
Right.
Where we need to start talking and saying, hey, you do provide a quality of life, but let's enhance it across and keep those communications open.
Right.
Because they do have a whole other level of government they're dealing with, and they're trying to keep things afloat on their end, just as much as we are. But I think if we do baby steps, I think we will be pretty good with trying to do that.
Right. And this last question is really specific for you. Is without getting into too much detail, are we getting close to hiring a police chief?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. I believe we're...
It's been on the table for a while.
Correct.
So, and you're the only, off the top of my head, I think you're the only active city council member that I could have asked that question to. So you're the only one that gets that question. So I'm sure some people would really like to see that come to fruition.
Yeah, it sounds like we're moving forward, and I believe it'll be soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We just did that one. How do you see City Council helping to secure proper funding for the city to address its infrastructure needs, programming needs, and special projects? I guess that would be like grants and things from the state.
Right.
And what can we do in that area to facilitate getting some more funds down here from the higher levels of government?
We just need to keep looking. That's the key. You just keep looking and keep trying, And one of the hard things with grants, and I do understand because I hear it a lot anymore. Like, why can't you just go for a grant? Why can't you just get a grant? We want this. Can't you just get a grant?
Right.
Why can't you give raises? Just get a grant. But I think there's a lot of misinformation with grant money. Grant money is not guaranteed. There's certain times that I know this. I believe it was recently with our water department. We had waited. I believe it was 5 years before we actually received the funding.
Right.
So that's why grants they're great. but they're not 100% reliable. So we need to work on ways to find continuous streams of revenue. Okay. Trickle-in revenue, I believe, is more important. I've toyed with the ideas of, looking at, maybe TIF districts going through, and probably even specialty taxes, looking at the severance to see if we can get, maybe possible increases to draw things down a little bit more consistently so we can complete the projects that we're wanting to do. There's utilities, even creations of new utilities possibly, to go through and try to secure even more funding. But that's what we need to look at. But we also have to look at tourism. We got to bring people into the community.
Right.
That's the best way. Our best investment is going to be marketing.
Okay. Manny, we're going to take a 2 or 3 minute break, let you get a drink of water and take a breath, and we'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tom Murphy, and this is Trinidad Now, and we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Tom Murphy, and this is Trinidad Now. We are in beautiful downtown Trinidad in the Chappelle House in our second part with Manny Trujillo. Manny, thank you again for joining us. We've gone through, I handed you these questions right before you sat down so you could at least see them, know that you're not going to get, the odd question that tries to trip people up. We're not trying to do that. This is just so that people get to know you. Because even though it's a small town, not everybody knows you.
Right.
So, and that's my goal, and we want good government. So, moving forward, what do you see as the future of Trinidad's economy? And you have kind of touched on this, but we're going to just restate it. And what steps would you take to move the city towards that goal during your first 4 years? No, I'm sorry, your first 2 years as mayor.
We need to foster ideas that come through. That's the main thing. Is pretty much entertain anything that's coming at us. To quote my grandpa again, try it. Right. With ideas that are coming, people that are coming forward, if they want to bring a business or industry here, I think we need to have a welcoming attitude, which I think we do. I do believe in the last 2 years that I have sat on council, I honestly can say we have not said no.
Right.
We have pretty much welcomed everybody that comes through to give them a shot and see what we can do. Are there areas that we can go through and probably revamp? I think we can. And say, maybe there's some opportunities that we have missed. Maybe we need to reach out. Main driving force to secure, one of them, of course, when we say it over and over, it's tourism. You know, we need to get people into town, but we need to also go through and continue to provide goods and services for our locals and keep them spending here. One of the things that it drives me nuts, the retail hemorrhage that we have going to Pueblo. You know, we're having to go out of town for certain goods and services that we don't have here. Maybe that's the area that we need to look at. You know, what are we missing? What services do we need to have here to keep them here? What goods are taking them? You know, what goods are they needing that they're going up to Pueblo for, or traveling even across the border to Raton for? Right. You know, maybe we need to look into those industries and ask if they want to be here. Business recruitment is going to be a huge driving force in the next 2 years for me, trying to figure out phone call after phone call and seeing, you know, if we can attract them to our area. We do have a beautiful city. We do have I-25 access, you know, so we need to look into that, you know, in every avenue.
Okay. All right. Well, you actually kind of addressed this, but it's just restated. What is your overall vision for Trinidad for the next 2 to 4 years?
My overall vision, I really want to see us be self-supportive. I really want to see us to where our city is strong, to where we don't have to rely as much on outside. You know, working with our county to make sure that we are in the know of what's coming into the county as well, because we do provide the quality of life section you know, of Los Animas County. Right. So if there are things coming in, that's the communications that I should have said earlier, but but those kind of communications is what we think we need to have. Those conversations when something's coming in, what do we need to provide for them? If there is an industry coming in, what can we do here to make sure that, you know, do we need to provide housing? Do we need to look at that? Do we need to look at different aspects of our, do we need to like go through and find, you know, do we need a resource for them? Do we have the place that sells goods for them? I do remember at one time, and this is where I kind of fall back to and fall inspiration to, when Pioneer first came in, we started bringing in, we had like Red Wing for the shoe company, you know, Big R started to come through, you know, and they were able to sell the things that they needed to continue that industry, so they didn't have to go outside of Trinidad to purchase. Right. You know, so I think that is something I think we need to look at, is to make sure that we're fostering those ideas, and going through and providing the goods and services that we need. But my vision for Trinidad, I really want to see a thriving youth, how do I want to phrase this? A thriving area for our youth. Okay. You know, that is one of my other visions. I want to work to make sure that we have enough activities for them. I would love to see the creation of a recreational center for them. I don't know if that would happen within 2 years, but that is a long-term goal of mine, is to try to bring something like that in here. Right. I want these kids to develop memories, to want to raise their kids here. My other part of my vision is also just creating a relationship even with the schools. You know, going through and letting these kids know, you know, you have opportunities in Trinidad. Right. You know, making our presence known there, that, you know, you can stay here and make a living. Right. Well,
but the school did just come to you, and I forget what the outcome was. I think it's on hold or whatever for the track in the football field.
Correct.
Is that on hold right now?
There's a lot of things on that they are working on their end.
Okay.
I know we had pledged to be their fiscal agent, I believe is what that was. Okay. And then there was some stuff on their end that didn't come through, so we had to redact that. But it's not off the table. Okay. You know, they're working on other avenues to secure that funding there. I do think there's other ways that we possibly could do as a community to kind of help them reach their goal. Mm-hmm. I am a firm believer that not everything has to fall on the city. I think we need to go out and inspire our community to do fundraisers and drives and probably even charity events to try to get these goals met. You know, so I think in these positions that we hold, it gives us a voice to be able to go out and say, hey, you know, let's give this a shot. You know, let's try it, you know, and see if we can get some money for these kids.
But I like what you said, because I think some people see the city as like they should fix everything.
Correct.
You're right. You're supposed to have all the answers.
Right.
when you look at some of the social media, it's like, I'm not sure that that's the city's responsibility, but I'm sure they tell you anyway. Manny, without being specific, because you're on city council, is there anything in the hopper that maybe we're not aware of industry-wise, or anything that might be percolating, that might be a possibility? Is there? Because I know sometimes they come to city and they're like, they want to bring a warehouse or something, and they don't want everybody to know. Is there anything that?
Nothing yet. And one thing that I encourage every single one of my customers, or anyone that comes and talks to me, especially when they come in, they're like, "Are you going to call for Buc-ee's?" You know, it's like, "Oh, we can try." And I'm like, and I encourage them. I always tell them, you know, Buc-ee's far-fetched, but there's a possibility. We don't know,
right.
You know? And as a citizen, they need to know they have that right. You know, if you fall in love with a restaurant in Pueblo, ask who the owner is.
Right.
You know, and say, "Hey, have you ever looked at our town in Trinidad?"
Right.
You know, and just throw our name out there and see if they help us bring those industries in here. You want a new you want a Del Taco, go find a Del Taco owner that's up north that you can find, and tell them, "Hey, look at our beautiful town of Trinidad. We've got 9,000 people. We've got 15,000 in the county. We serve Colfax. We serve Huerfano. We serve parts of Otero County. You know, we are a huge spoke." And that is one of the best selling points that we have.
Right.
You know, and I encourage every citizen to go through and say, "Hey, you know, even now, stop at Target and ask them if they think about opening a place." Because you never know, it could happen.
Yeah.
You know, take a shot in the dark.
Yeah, I know through previous years sometimes the council would know things and they couldn't reveal it because the people were just exploring the possibility.
Not that I've been privy to yet. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is unique to you too. In the 2 years that you've been there, what projects and accomplishments of your current council do you see as being the biggest benefits to the city's development?
Well, we have seen so much happen in this last 2 years. You know, we brought our quality of life projects to life, literally. So we have LEA on the verge of being completed. We got the pickleball courts opening up within the next few weeks, I believe.
Right.
I think they're already exploring them as we speak. Anyway, the resurfacing of the skate park, that's been a big thing. We just actually had the grand opening of that. Trying to think what else we've had. Well, we also have the new city manager. We also have Maverick getting ready to open. They're already hiring. We've got Love's on the verge of they're getting close to completion. So I think we'll be seeing that in a couple of months. So that's going to bring some much needed sales tax revenue. I know there's been a lot out there. There were a lot of concerns that they're out in the county. We have annexed those in. Those are our dollars. Okay. You know, so we will be responsible for them out there, and we get to reap the benefits. Okay. Also, Circle K, I believe that is still in the works. They'll get their go ahead, I think, soon. Okay. So we've got that going on as well, and I think that's just the start. Okay. And I know there's so many things that are unseen. Right. That's the one thing that I think people don't see where their dollars are being used is in the infrastructure. Right. We have been updating infrastructure for the last 2 years. Water lines, gas lines, electrical, underground electrical, right. You know, and we have so many more of those projects coming to fruition now. We've got housing. The other thing is allowing the housing to come in with the Housing Now initiative. I believe the number's right. I may be off by a couple numbers, but I believe it's 96 units by the end of 2026.
On the north end?
All the way across through town. So that's, so 20, I believe it's 24 in City View Heights. Right. And then we have the Mark that will be, I believe they're going to start construction soon, I believe, on the Mark. And that'll be 38 units. And then I do believe there's another, I can't remember exactly how many are in the Holy Trinity building, but those will be coming up soon too. So we'll do the infrastructure first and then move into Cape Hamden. We'll start developing.
Okay. All right. Last portion of this is a little bit more personal. Okay. So what is your biggest success in life?
My family and my business.
Good. Okay. Yep. People see this. You've pretty much what everybody said. Right. So the opposite of that, what's your biggest failure in life?
I'm going to go with what we talked about earlier. So, thinking I could handle 3 corgis. Okay. But that's pretty much it. I have been very blessed in my life that pretty much everything that we have done, it's been a success to the best that we can.
Good.
Yeah, so
okay. And who are or were your biggest influences in life?
My grandmother and my mother.
Okay.
They're both gone now.
Uh-huh.
But they were always encouraging me.
Right.
My grandma one time, and this is just a weird, cheesy story, and I'm just going to say it
It's
because
okay.
it falls to this. But every time we went to the store, I'd carry her in, get her, and we start going around, and I'd start talking to people. And
Right.
being a hairdresser, you get known.
Right.
So you're going back and forth. And she goes, you should be mayor. And I used to always laugh. And I was like, Grandma, nobody will ever want me. And I used to always say that to her. And now it's just weird because it's kind of emotional that I'm like, even considering this position. I never even thought I'd get on council, I'll be honest.
Right.
And I think it was truly humbling that this community allowed me to speak for them.
Right.
And that is why I will continue over and over to fight for whatever they want me to fight for, because that, in essence, that's what we're here for.
Right.
We're not here for ourselves.
Right.
We are here for them. We were put in these positions to be a voice for them, to be the person that goes in there and fights for them, and that's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
We're not supposed to go in there. We don't have personal agendas because we shouldn't. We weren't put in these positions to accomplish what we wanted to do. We wanted to accomplish what they wanted us to do. And most of my ideas, I'll be honest, I go through where I give credit where credit is due. I've heard them from you guys.
Right.
Things you guys have spoke about for years that wanted to come to fruition. And now it's kind of weird because they're kind of happening, and it's not because of just me. It's because of everybody on that council that brings all those different ideas forward. And that's how we get what we have.
Right. And I'm going to chime in just a little bit here as somebody who's observed council for a very long time. You have not been quiet, and I appreciate that. I think it's important to speak out, and you've expressed yourself well.
Thank you.
One of the important things about this interview is I don't want people to think that I've left something off the table. So this is the final part. It's like you can, at this point, you're going to look at the camera and you can say whatever it is that you want to say. There's no restrictions. So this is your time to wrap it up. So looking at the camera there, you can say whatever you'd like, Manny.
It's always difficult, but I have been truly humbled with just everything that I've been allowed to do lately in the last 2 years, to be able to speak for every single one of you. And I hope that I've done a great job representing you. And I'm sure out there with our wonderful citizens of Trinidad, you will let us know. So, but I do encourage every single citizen, stay active, continue coming to the city or any of your other government agencies and speak your mind. This is your community. This is your town. If there's something wrong, please tell us. We can't be everywhere. This council has worked very hard for this community, and I do believe we have done an amazing job bringing forth the quality of life projects that I hope that everybody will enjoy. This election is extremely important. You will be choosing your mayor, and you will be choosing 3 other seats. All the candidates are highly qualified, and they all will bring something different to the table. So whatever choices you decide to make, just know that they will be working for you. And that is what we're supposed to be doing. So I thank you very much for your consideration. And that is pretty much all I have. And I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you.
Manny, thank you very much. And again, I haven't done interviews in a little while, so I was a little rusty with the earlier ones, and they're getting better. But I think I said it earlier, I'm ecstatic that we have the quality of candidates that we have for running for the seats. I think Trinidad is going to be the beneficiary of this next election in a good and profound way, of quality candidates sitting up there. And you've already served 2 years, and thank you. But ladies and gentlemen, we just got a few more to go. I'm Tom Murphy, and this is Trinidad Times TV, Trinidad Now. We will... so I'm starting to trip over myself a little bit because this is my second interview today. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching.
Thank you.